All right, guys, it's Jay. Welcome in, and we're gonna have a discussion of topic about something I saw today, very similar to it, but not the exact same thing. All right, it's this idea of you trying to be somebody else. Okay, I've seen this example play out in my own life. Now, before I get too far, this is an energy drink. Okay, that's what this is. This is nothing other than an energy drink. I buy these for 89 cents at the store. So. Now, on to the other topic. So the topic at hand is this idea that I've seen quite often in my life where people just there's times I run into people and I don't know, maybe I felt like they know too much about me or somebody has somewhere told them about me. And this is just an example of what it is that I see in my daily life. But I see people who genuinely don't don't actually think or do for themselves. Genuinely, I see what they do is a very try to be like somebody else. Example, I'll see people do exactly the same thing I do at times, and it's very, very disturbing to see that in somebody else. You know, it's okay to be a fan of somebody, but to full on try to be that person is a whole different scenario in a story. So this even goes into the aspect of video games as an example. This is much more deeper and broader in a perspective, okay? You can be a fan of somebody and not be them, all right? You can be a fan of somebody and not get, if they have a bunch of tattoos. You don't have to get tattoos to be a fan of them. You can be a fan of them. But when you start idolizing and you start trying to be like that person, then you're taking away all of you because you're trying to be exactly like that example of that person you see out there. All right? A lot of what I do and a lot of who I am today has been learned not only from the video games I played, but from life experiences, and it's built me to be exactly who I am. Now, take that any way you want, but I'm just trying to say that there's this thing where people think that they understand where I'm coming from. And most times it's just a basic judgment of people just thinking they know me too well. And we're onto this weird scenario now in life where I've heard this mentioned a bunch of times in my life. I used to hang out with people that believe this. But they have this strong belief that we're all just connected to one another. That everything I do, they automatically know. So we're connected because we're all just we're all one big happy family. When reality, the truth is that is not the truth. You are not connected to anybody, regardless of how you feel. You can try to be that person, that character, all day long. But to a T, you will never be that person. And when I hear people saying they've done this before, and it's the same exact thing that I did before, it's just a reason for me to make it bothers me because what they're doing is they're essentially trying to say they're like just like me. All right? I grew up in the era that had songs saying, I don't want to be you. I don't want to be just like you. All right? I've always taken that into consideration as being my own person, okay? Now, I've been around people betraying they're like this badass. They try to be like here's examples of what they were trying to be. Undertaker, Johnny Cash, MMA fighters, the works. And yes, you can love that lifestyle all you want, but you're never going to be part of that lifestyle. And when I do things the way I do them, it's because it's a hobby I really, really enjoy or really, really like. I do not try to become, I do not try to become, excuse me, more than who I actually am. And a while ago, I, you know, I was not, I did something that I wanted to see kind of how people would react to it. All right. And then they got this idea that I actually was this thing that I was, not trying to be. It was just an example because what I was trying was a social studies, I guess that's how you say it, or a social understanding of how people would react to somebody that tried to look like somebody but wasn't to a T them. And they all just took it in a way that just essentially I was doing cosplay and seeing how people would react to all of it. And it got taken out of context and it got blown up, taken the wrong way, everything. I was fascinated by the show Naruto for a while. And a lot of people who know me know I used to enjoy that show. But over the course of time, I started seeing people act exact same way I did, which then it set this whole other standard of people not understanding who exactly they are, and then it led everybody into this idea of I felt like it led into like massive confusion among people because I didn't think that was going to lead to that. Yes, it was a very weird thing I was doing, but at the same time, I did it as a social experiment because that's what I like to do is check with social experiments and see how things go. I never once thought I was those characters. I never once actually was trying to be those characters. And that's where people were getting me confused, okay? They were absolutely getting me confused. Behind it, I saw what was massive judgment towards a community of people doing cosplay, being nerds, all that other stuff that nerd culture consists of. I saw it as a much more darker, grittier side of living in situations where people actually thought poorly of you. And this is what happens with the whole nerd community and nerd culture when you do it as a lifestyle, okay? People do treat you like you're some sort of like little kid that doesn't understand the basic natures of being a human being. All right? And when it comes down to it, this social experiment also led me to realize that a lot of people are never who they think they are. They'll sit there and they'll try to be that exact human being, and they are not that exact human being. I've witnessed people who watch anime go above and beyond with some strange looks, do cosplay, and be obsessed and want a desire to be that type of human being. And regardless of how you look at it and how I see it, I was never trying to be that. I was just doing a social experiment that I wanted to see to a T how people would react to the way things were. And it got me into a world of problems because that's what people saw me as, and that's what people still see me as. And then after after the social experiment was over, because a lot of what I do is just to study and research to see where people come from on things. And I've been in plenty of communities, and I can sit there and look at all these communities I've ever seen and see exactly what they are, as they are. And that's why you'll never see me try to fit into any of these communities, because I simply see them as a whole, where they're coming from. It was a study of people and the way people reacted to things. And I got bullied. I got bullied for what I was doing because people didn't see it as a social experiment or some sort of research. I didn't have to say it, but people saw me as a weirdo. I had a guy literally threaten my life over this whole situation. I still have people to this day doing horrible stuff to me, all because of the social experiment I did a little while ago. And going back to the whole thing about being yourself, I am who I am today solely because of music I listen to, chapters of my life, basic video games I ended up learning from to be a man and, learn to be that strong individual that keeps cool under most situations and thinks logical under most situations. That's where I got those things from. You gotta, don't try to be like the character inside of the game, is what I'm saying. Don't try to be the person you see on the screen, is another example of what I'm saying. What I'm saying here is like all those things still, but learn to be you for who you are and like who you actually are, because I still do like who I am, even though I've been through a world of hurt, pain, and suffering, all due to a social experiment I did a couple years back. And I was and anybody can take it as it is and blame me for what it is, but there are people who literally have judged me to a T, and I'm still able and capable of getting jobs. I work at a job right now, and it's things like that I see that I'm just like, this went really, really horrible. And I will say this to people out there: if you're having trouble figuring out what your life purpose is or who you are, more than likely, you want to get access to either going to church, reading the Bible, or just find something that isn't going to allow you to feel like isn't going to feel like it sucks you in internally. You know, I joke around and do a lot of stuff, but I also do believe that, we all have purpose in this world, and some of us lose a grasp and grip of what our purpose is. The spiritual community, the hippie community in general, is an example of people who are just ultimately lost and don't want to be accepted, or can't feels like they can't be accepted somewhere. So they created this misfit crowd of people who are just completely lost within themselves. And I've been there. I've seen what it is. I've seen how it goes. I've seen how bad people can get. And when I witnessed people being as bad as they are, it just shows me that basic human nature is not as kind as what we think it is. And I learned that also through the Bible, that the Bible is not some kind hippie story. And at the end of the day, what I think the message ultimately is from this video is, don't go into stuff, or don't try to be something you're not, because you doing that to yourself will get you lost. You'll be bullied. You'll end up around people who dislike you, all because you're not being who yourself is. And then again, even if you are yourself, people are still going to dislike you because they see you as the old version of what you were doing a few years back. Yes, I openly admit, everything a few years back that I did, it ended up being some sort of social experiment, because what I was trying to do is learn something and learn why people were trying to be a certain way towards other individuals. And I saw the results of what ultimate bullying can do when you're part of those. But at the same time, what I witnessed is people gaslighting me so bad into believing that I was this human being that I wasn't from this show. And when you start cosplaying and you start really, really getting into deeply into video games, you just tend to lose who exactly you are. I'm not saying don't play video games. What I am saying is play the video games all you want, but do not become a victim of the product you just bought that's sitting behind you on the shelf. All right? Don't be that. Don't believe you're in there, because you're not in there. You're not going to be that human being, that video game character you see. You can desire to think, and you can appreciate what that character is for and what they do in the game, and take it as a life lesson to learn from it. But at the end of the day, again, don't try to be the character in the game. Learn to be yourself. Learn to accept every situation as a learning mistake, or a chance to learn something. Because at the end of the day, that's all we're meant to do, is learn. Take every lesson you're in as a scenario to learn from it, and try to understand it, and try to justify why you feel that way. And maybe you might find some clarity. So those of you out there that are struggling with this, that do look at this as an example of, I'm lost and I can't figure out who I am, so like even narrowing it down to like you becoming something you're not, and then changing your whole sexuality of it, which I'm not going to talk about here. There's a bigger problem here than that, okay? And it turned from women wanted to be like the girls in magazines to a much more bigger problem than what it is, and it leads into even cosplay, watching anime, things like that. You can like those characters all you want, but at the end of the day, when you try to become those characters, you're just not going to be yourself anymore, and that's just hands down what it is. You're going to lose every fiber of your being, what you were from growing up, to who you are right now. And at the end of the day, just never do that to yourself, because that's not something you want to do. You don't want to lose yourself and have people make you seem like you're crazy, because I'm there right now, and I still have people not forgiving me for things I did years and years ago, and people still holding things against me, even though I've changed tremendously since 3 years ago. So people are looking at me like I'm still this subject of, the subject of something I don't know. It's just really hard to say what they see it as, but I learned a lot from it. and the social experiment actually told me a lot. And I know what full on bullying is when it comes down to that kind of stuff. That being a nerd, doing cosplay and stuff like that can lead to ultimate shaming, ultimate bullying, and then people see you as, something you're not, and will put you into places you're not supposed to be, and you become a subject of what people painted a picture of instead of you being yourself. And that's all I'm gonna say here. I want you guys out there to understand. Don't ever try to become somebody you're not. All right, because it's gonna lead you to places in your life you don't want to be, deeper, darker places you don't want to go. And to sit there and pretend you're not who you are, well, that's a subject for another time. All I gotta say, ladies and gentlemen, is try to be more who you are and try to stop pandering to the idea of trying to fit into somewhere because you're trying to be something you're not. As for me, I enjoy who I am, and I will always do what I do. I'm a random guy to begin with, but I just want you guys to understand. All these names I create, you're never gonna see me change who I am. When I first started YouTube and all that, I was showing people signs of who I truly was, and it led them to disliking me. So again, we got a bunch of people on the internet that see who I am before, and a lot of people bury themselves under this pile of something that they're not trying to be, so they don't come up and grab air for themselves, so they drown themselves with ideas and what they want to be and fascinations and all that. And at the end of the day, just remember, be who you are. Let life break you down, and you'll learn a lot about yourself. In the meantime, guys, I hope you take this into consideration and learn a little something from this. This was an idea I thought of because I spun it off of one idea, and I guess what I want to say is be true to who you are and don't try to be the other person, you know. Uh, that's all I really want to say. All right. So take it easy, and hopefully you like this, and I'm out of here.